define home? See, I've asked this question to a lot of people. Home can be an idea. It can be a place. Home has been described as familiar. It's been described as safe, fun, known, comfortable. Someone said boring over there. You're absolutely right. Boring is one of the answers. You win. Home has been described as a prison. I've heard people say home is chaos, home is static, home is stagnant. I've heard people say home is overwhelming. I've also heard people say, you know what, home's nothing really. Home is personal, and all of these points are very, very valid because, well, it's your story. It's all about you, your home, your community, your personal experience, your personal everyday here or anywhere else on this wonderful planet that we happen to live on. I've been thinking about home an awful lot recently because about a year and a half ago, I moved to Miami. So I'm a Florida man now. And I have been doing more weird things. I can't explain why. But I've also been thinking a lot about how I would define home. And I would like to add one more definition to all of these that we threw out there. And if I could add a definition right now, at this point in my life, it would be home might just be the place we take for granted. You see, home is every day. Home is the background. You generally don't think twice because it's always there. Do you realize what you have? Or do you have to go away to realize what you will miss? Let's put it this way. How many of you guys know what your home smells like? In asking this question, many people don't. You can't pinpoint what home smells like until you come back from a long trip. Why? Because we adapt. If something is constant, if something is always there, if something is gradual, we adapt to those things. We are the proverbial frogs sitting in boiling water. And this is an interesting thing. It's an adaptation. But as we heard earlier today, that very gradual change, especially in light of a everyday climate crisis, that can be really, really dangerous. I'm a scientist. I'm a conservationist. And I want to give you guys a quick little snapshot on home, planet Earth. We are approaching 8 billion people on our planet, and, well, if you're used to a lot of people, sure, why not? But let's put it this way. Anybody watched Avengers recently? If Thanos were to snap, what year would we be in? If Thanos were to snap today and get rid of half of humanity, we'd be at 1972. Since 1972, the human population has doubled. Let's say Thanos decides to change things up a bit, and he wants to snap twice. Well, maybe not twice, just lower it to a third. 1950, if you were born, if your grandfather was born, or if your parent was born in 1950, the human population on planet Earth has tripled. That's insane. That is exponential growth at its finest. And this in itself isn't a problem, but when you start figuring out that we're not exactly living sustainably, things get really concerning. Unsustainable use of energy, resources is causing, well, some unintended consequences. Yeah, a lot of my work deals with things like that, and it's really depressing. And it's really depressing having to read studies that say basically we're the last generation that can save nature as we know it. It's really depressing to know that I've got friends that work on top of Mount Everest, and hey, they found plastic. I've got friends that have been to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. Guess what? Also found plastic. I specialize in working in tropical jungles. And sadly, currently, we're losing about 30 soccer fields every minute of tropical forests across the globe. From my own nonprofit's calculations, it's actually closer to 31, but it's okay. We'll make a little difference there. This is depressing. This is overwhelming. I don't want to hear about this. Because if you focus on the negative, you'll forget about what we still have left to fight for. One of my homes now is definitely the Amazon. I've been working there for almost 10 years. I truly wish I could take all of you to it. This is a place where life is literally exploding out of the ground. It's, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest celebration of life on our planet. Everywhere you look, something's buzzing, slithering, calling. You're taking a step, and that step is on a world of roots connecting this entire vast ecosystem, 90% the size of the United States. What's more, I work at an extra special place in the Amazon. I would argue one of the most special places on planet Earth, the boiling river of the Amazon. The water you see there is hot enough to kill you, and it's a sacred place. I first heard about it as a legend because this place didn't exist. We're talking about something, a river, that flows hot for almost 4 miles. That cloud is a steam cloud. And if you fall in most of that, bye-bye. Because if I, who am up there on top of that waterfall, fall into that 170-degree pool, I'm not going to last for very long. That pool, at its widest point, the boiling river is 100 feet across. At its deepest point, the boiling river gets up to 15 feet deep. The hottest temperature I measured? Check that out. By the way, if you go to Starbucks, your Starbucks coffee is only about 130 degrees, so this is piping hot. The name of the river, Shanaitin Pishka, literally means boiled with the heat of the sun. And you can, well, pretty much see why. So I, in 2011, became the first geoscientist granted the shamanic blessing to study this sacred place. I've been working with the locals, shamans, other Peruvians ever since. And what's interesting is a lot of this has been not only studying it, protecting it, but bringing this narrative to the world responsibly. We're at a point where we understand a lot of the science. And as echoed earlier today, the narratives are getting increasingly concerning. And I say this as a scientist. Or, to quote my shaman friends, stories have value. And in the jungle, to take on their perspective, these stories have impacts. In the Amazon, a lot of the older shamans are concerned that young people, well, they're globalized now. They'd much rather be dancing to Fonsi's Despacito instead of, Grandma singing the song of her people. And I get it. I'd probably rather be dancing to Despacito too, no big deal, but it's got an impact. And what's curious is we can do both. We can see the world with both eyes and listen with both ears. But it's amazing because when I'm in the jungle, I was with my friend Anna, and we were standing next to some trees that were definitely bigger around than this red dot. In fact, bigger around than some cars are long. And she was saying her dream was to go to Dubai. But it's funny, I'm working with all these Amazonian students, all these youths, and they could be, mixed blood Peruvians like myself, or more traditional native Peruvians. And the ultimate story is, take advantage of globalization. Go out, look to that horizon, but remember where your feet are planted. Remember where you stand, because this can very much be hallowed ground. Remember where you stand. One of the most powerful things you can do to help the Amazon is actually come visit. What I have seen really move the needle is when Amazonians see somebody like you coming all the way from across the planet, spending money to see something that they see in their everyday. It blows their mind, and tourist dollars obviously help a lot. Again, there's tremendous power in narratives. In my career in National Geographic, I've had 2 things go viral. I'm talking about phone lines going off the hook, more emails, messages across platforms that I can possibly respond to. And that's been the boiling river, but also this amazing creature with the head of a crocodile, needle-like teeth, armored scales. That is, in fact, a gar. And that is not from the Amazon. That's actually from pretty close by to where we are now. In 2015, the Trinity River flooded. The water level got kind of high, and all of these gar got stuck in fences. They were about 3 feet long. I documented all this. I did a story for National Geographic that ended up being one of the top 3 most shared blog posts in 2015. And what was amazing to me is that we're still living in the wild frontier. It's just gone into our backyard. We just don't notice it anymore because it's in our everyday. These guys swam around, our ancestors did anyway, with T-Rex and Velociraptor, and they are still here. You've just got to look for them. When I was landing yesterday, flew into DFW, development, a road, and there you see some Texas urban wilds. It reminded me a lot of flying into the Amazon. Developed areas, a road, pristine Amazon jungle. The Amazon's not the only place that's facing deforestation. Actually, one of the worst examples of it is here in the United States, and you can see it from a satellite map. If you notice, the colors of green change. Everything should really be dark green. The light green is all human-made. If you zoom in, sometimes you even see a blocky pattern that looks like a grid. Oh no, this might be a problem of, pixels. No, that's the grid itself. Explore it on Google Earth. Try to tell me the difference of which one of these images is from the Brazilian Amazon and which one is from the United States. You're going to have a really tough time figuring that out. See, in the battle for the planet, every single battlefield counts. And if I can summarize the last 10 years of my work, we're facing global problems that are getting people really depressed, that seem overwhelming. And I think now more than ever is a time to focus on local solutions that hopefully we can go global with. 3 people that really inspire me, Jane Goodall, Greta Thunberg, Malala Yousafzai, they all started really locally, and we often forget that. Their movements now drive global change. Jane Goodall started Gombe Stream National Park, 13.5 square miles. That's nothing. Greta Thunberg, no one was interested, she said, in going out with her, so she went by herself. And Malala, she was an 11-year-old blogger. That's how she started, and now she's probably one of the strongest voices for equality on planet Earth. We forget that all global really means is the sum of all things local. So now that I'm split between 2 worlds, here in the US and in the Amazon, I find one story that keeps coming up, and that's your backyard matters. Because if you're that Amazonian guy that's grown up around the boiling river all your life, you don't think twice that the way you make tea is to walk down to the river, scoop up that cup, and drink it straight out of the river. That's weird to us, right? Because we heat up our tea kettle and, get it from a different way. These problems are overwhelming until they go local. So do what you can, where you can, and when you can. And if you do that sincerely, I do think that step will be enough to start the right changes. What changes? Well, I got 2 friends actually that hopefully will start texting each other after this talk. And it'll go a little something like this. One thing you can do is a pollinator garden. That's a great way to go. Native gardens, xeriscaping in your own home. You don't need permission for that. Getting involved with protest movements, volunteering, building bat houses. One thing that you might take for granted here, in the Amazon and some of the places that I work with, we have to literally fight the bad guys, the mafiosos, the people that will literally show up and threaten you. It might be your land, but they'll still come and log all your trees. I lived in Dallas for a very long time, and I never saw anyone jumping over anyone else's fences to cut down all your trees. You got some perks that you can work with. So remember, home wherever it is, Boiling River, Miami, Dallas, planet Earth. Wherever you are, always look to that horizon. Never stop exploring. Always be curious, but also don't forget to look where you're standing. You might find some incredible things. Thank you very much.